Hello internet, it's me again, back with another monthly book wrap up. If you're new here, or if you don't know me, which is probably not that many people, my name is Elizabeth and I like to talk about books and I like to go places. Today I'll be talking about books, since going places has not been a thing of mine for a while. So the books that I read over the month of February, I tried to read from mostly Black authors, as it was Black History Month. I wanted to read stories from Black authors and try to do that. I think there was only one book that I read that wasn't by a Black author, but the books that I read over the course of February were pretty good, and I'm just going to talk about them and tell you what the rating is and all that good stuff. So the first book that I read in February was Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I want to kind of preface this by saying, like, I am not a romance person. I've never really been, I don't want to say never, but it's just not my favorite thing to read. But Get a Life, Chloe Brown was really fun. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. In Get a Life, Chloe Brown, we have Chloe Brown and Redford Morgan. I believe that's his name, but everybody calls him Red, except for Chloe, because she's like pompous. That's like her thing.
Do you think I'm elitist?
Of course I do. You needn't worry about that.
They end up falling in love, whatever, it's a whole thing. But what I really enjoyed about their romance was that it felt real. I never once felt like, oh, this would never happen to me, right? Like, I felt like that is something that could happen in the real world. It wasn't, some Cinderella princess type shit. Like, it felt real, which I enjoyed. There was a lot of funny moments with Chloe's sisters, especially during the book, and it is a series, so there's also Chloe's sister Danny and Chloe's sister Eve they also have books as well, and I'm probably gonna end up reading those just because why not. I enjoyed this one, so I'll give those other ones a swing, and I've heard that they're all pretty good. There's a lot of hype around the books, and that's why I picked it up mostly, and it's been on my to be read for a while, so I was like, you know what, why not? It was available at my library, so I got it. Another thing that I enjoyed about it was that it could have become very toxic, the relationship between Chloe and Red, because they were each struggling with their own personal issues with prior relationships, and that comes up throughout the story, but it's very clear that they want to be better. They want to learn from their mistakes, and they don't want to feel the same way that they felt in those past relationships, which I really enjoy, that the author gave these characters not only a chance to redeem themselves, but also find a romance that is redeeming. I really enjoyed that the author allowed for both of these characters to grow through their romance together. So it was good. I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're into romance. Read it. It's really good. So the only book that I read that was a 5 out of 5 stars was The Poet X.
Boy.
I am an absolute slut for any book that has another language in it. This was a mixture of Spanish and English. It wasn't throughout the whole book, like there wasn't a ton of Spanish, and a lot of it she did explain like in English what it meant afterwards. But some of it it would just be one person speaks in Spanish and she responds in English, or another person responds in English, but you're still able to understand the context of the conversation, which I really enjoyed because it allowed me to see inside, I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Anyways, but the main character's story and how she grew up living, because she grew up speaking Spanish in England. Wow, Spanish and English. So it was really interesting to see that, and I really loved that. The characters were really well developed, and I really enjoyed that as well. It definitely is young adult, and I thought that it was really good for a young adult book. And even though I kind of love young adult books anyways, like I'm definitely biased on that, but I thought that it was a great young adult book, and I was really surprised at how good it was, because it is written in verse, but I really did genuinely enjoy it. The next book that I read was, I don't want to say it was a disappointment, but it kind of was. I really thought I was gonna get another Get a Life Chloe Brown out of this one, and I just did not. And this book is, what is it? Red, White, and Royal Blue. I wanted, like, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I knew what I was getting into, but I thought that maybe it would feel more realistic. I mean, I don't want to say realistic, because, like, it was very clear that they loved each other. Like, it was very clear they had emotions and tensions, and there was it was like a very, like, enemies to lovers type thing. But it was really only like that on the one side. And I think that was mostly because Alex was figuring out his sexuality. What I did enjoy was the representation. Alex is the main character, and he's bisexual. The fact that Alex is dating a boy never takes away from his bisexuality, which I really, really enjoyed. And I think the author made that very clear, is that Alex is bisexual regardless of him dating Harry.
So I noticed that throughout the entire time that I'm talking about Red, White, and Royal Blue, I reference Henry as Harry. And just to clear it up, his name is Henry in the book, Prince Henry, not Prince Harry. Sorry, y'all.
Because you don't really get to see that often. This book was very, very cheesy. See, not unrealistic, just cheesy. The romance was very real between them. I felt the passion and the heat and the love and all that stuff. I felt it. But what I did not feel was that it was just cheesy. It's really cheesy. And some people like that. And even, even I like a little bit of cheese. Don't get me wrong. I like a little bit of cheese. But also, it took me out of the story a bit sometimes. I'd be like, wow. The dialogue between Harry and Alex, or even Alex and his sister, sometimes I was like, wow, that just took me right out of the story. Like, that was just I'm like, now I gotta sit here and, like, think about that line for a minute, because wow. And there was also, and maybe this is just me, but there was also, like, a lot of drinking in the story. It felt like constantly throughout the story, Alex was either thinking about drinking, or he was drunk. So I'm not the biggest fan of that. Especially when it's so apparent, like, right? Like, I understand drinking at a party, I understand that, but it felt like it was kind of like a main point of, like, Alex's personality. And I'm just like, is he an alcoholic? Like, what is going on here?
Totally in.
Because that's kind of what it felt like. So it was, I don't know. It's like every formal event that they go to, he's, like, drinking. And he talks about drinking a lot. There's, like, memories his sister brings up, and he talks about drinking in the memories. Like, it's just it's a lot for me, and that's another thing that kind of took me out of the story. I'm like, all right, so how often are your words getting slurred here? The next book that I read was My Sister, the Serial Killer. Dun dun dun. And it's basically just that. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this story, however, the title gives it all away. Right? Her sister's a serial killer. Like, however, I feel like this is what Lifetime wishes they could accomplish at the same time. It's a good story, but it just kind of went nowhere. It's very much reminiscent of You, where Joe just keeps killing his girlfriends. If you like that, probably like this. I gave that also a 3 out of 5 stars. So, I think I may have given that a 4 out of 5. The second book in the series of You, I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I gave that one a freaking 2 out of 5 stars. That was awful. That book was absolutely awful. I hope that she redeems herself in the third one. But this book was not bad. I thought that it was really good. I enjoyed the setting, and I enjoyed reading from the sister's perspective. And what I think I mostly enjoyed about the book was that, oh God, why do I always forget their names? Corday. Anyways, Corday. I'm gonna say Corday. Corday, you read from Corday's perspective, who is the sister that is not a serial killer, and the other sister, I can't remember her name for the life of me. But she is a serial killer, and you read from Corday's perspective, but Corday also has a lot of, like, internal like back and forth about her sister, about herself, and like with her parents. There's like a little bit of, add a little bit of spice there. So I would say read it. I think it was good. I wouldn't say like, this is an awful book, don't read it. It was good, but it's just very repetitive. And yeah, that's really it. Anyways, the final book that I read for February was Homegoing. And boy, I loved this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I really did enjoy it. In Homegoing, it takes place over 300 years. So you're reading through several different generational perspectives, but it's two sisters, two half-sisters, and they never know each other. They don't even know that they're sisters because the mom leaves the one family behind and then goes and starts another family. However, you're following the two lines, the two family lines. So you read about the first sister and then you read about the second sister. And then you read about the first sister's kid and their kid and their kid and their kid and their kid. And it goes back and forth. You read about the second sister's kid and their kid and their kid and their kid and their kid. And it is such an amazing book. I think that it embodied the rage behind like slavery and injustices in America towards Black people so well, so well. Even towards the end of the book, you get into like the heroin epidemic, the crack epidemic, and it was just all of it was so wonderful to read. However, towards the middle of the book, the characters start to become less fleshed out. Now, this is only a 300-page book, and we're talking about 300 years. So I can understand why. It's just that you get so attached that you want to know more. And you know so much about the first sister and the second sister, so you kind of, there's kind of this like expectation of like, oh, we're gonna get the same kind of fleshiness that we got with the sisters throughout the whole book, and you don't, unfortunately. I do understand though, that's the only reason why I docked to the star, and even then I would probably say it's more of 4.5, but I don't do that half shit on Goodreads or anything like that. I gave it a 4 stars, and at some points you're like, well, I was just really getting into this one line, I really want to know about their daughter next. I don't really, you know, I've already kind of forgot about the last family. It took me a while to finish it. I think it took me about like 2 weeks to finish it. I'm back in school, so that's also why I haven't read a lot of books. This took me, I think, about 2 weeks to finish, and I was reading other books like in between. Would honestly sometimes forget like, who is that again? And it would bring me back, right? Like it was a very easy like one sentence like, oh, and then I'd be like, okay, yeah, I remember who that is now. But I will say towards the middle of the book, and then it picks up in the end again. And then it picks up in the end again. But that's the only complaint that I have. I definitely will be reading her other book, which is Transcendent Kingdom, and I am really excited for that because I really, really did love Homegoing, and I think that it is a one of a kind. I honestly really didn't. Did I just lose power? And now my neighbors are fighting. All right, well, I guess that's gonna end here. If you enjoyed the video, please like it, and if you want to see more of my content, make sure that you subscribe. Oh, and it's back. All right, so I'm just gonna leave this video here. If you like the video, make sure that you give it a like, and if you like my content, if you want to see more of my content and follow along, make sure that you subscribe and do all those other fun YouTube things. Let me know what you read in February in the comments. If you want to do that, that's cool. We can talk about it. Yeah, so anyways, that's all I have to say. Bye.